They're calling it the greatest World Cup of our lives. But let's make one thing clear in Australia. We don't give a fuck. When do the test matches start? Ed Cowan is on the show, as is Barney Ronay. This is one of the all-time great tournaments right in front of our eyes. As is the great company, Budgie Smuggler, which, of course, backs TGC. The new range of underwear, use the code ALPHA for 20% off at budgiesmuggler.com.au if that is your preference. My name is Ian Higgins. Sam Perry is gripped with World Cup fever. What a tournament, man. What a fucking tournament. You know, Australia's out, but it doesn't matter. We don't care.
I'll tell you what doesn't matter, mate. International cricket. And I'm going to tell you why.
Finally.
I'm going to tell you why.
Tell me why.
Look, I don't know about
Tell
you.
Tell me why.
Everyone in Australia is meant to be understanding the future of cricket, the trends of the game.
Okay.
Domestic franchise cricket. We're all meant to become familiar with Chennai Super Kings, fucking RCB or whatever that shit means.
Right.
But the core, the soul of cricket, which finally has had a chance to play on Saturday here in Melbourne because rainy season's past us.
Yeah.
That's where it's at. And that's where I want to begin, if you don't mind, this afternoon.
Please, let's get to the grassroots. It's about the grassroots.
I don't call it grassroots. It's just cricket. Grassroots even has this kind of idea of like, oh, look, that's the bottom level. Now it is. But this is
Was
just...
a wheelie bin being used as stumps?
I'll get to that because those words were...
bandied
used.
about?
They were bandied. So fuck international cricket for now.
Okay,
let's get to the
fuck
real
that shit.
On Saturday, I had the great fortune of looking after my two boys solo. My wife's working a night shift. She's sleeping. So I got to get the boys out of the house. They're 4 and they're 2, respectively.
Get them out the house.
And I thought, if they behave themselves, I'll treat them to a little ice cream, which usually means Dad is treating himself to an ice cream because Dad needs a little hit of serotonin to deal with the grim realities of looking after a 4 and 2-year-old. Nevertheless, so my son wakes up from his sleep during the day, and it's time to get out. And I thought, you know what? There's a ground around the corner from my house that I haven't visited in a kind of cricketing sense. And I'll name it. It's Yarraville Oval, right? I live in the west of Melbourne.
You haven't visited in a cricketing sense. So you're just visiting the park generally.
Well, there are.
Late at night, bit of dogging stuff.
There are. Yeah, there's only 2 ways you can visit parks, in a cricketing sense or dogging. Yes.
Front dogging or literal dogging.
Yeah, that's right. No, look, you got me there. But so we get our ice cream. It's a struggle. We get in the car. Why would you give a 4-year-old and a 3-year-old ice cream in the car? Nevertheless, I had a vision. I wanted to walk around this ground. I wanted to do a lap of the ground with an ice cream.
Okay.
Anyway, so there we go. Parents will understand. And turn up at the ground. A lot of people there. Oh, a lot of people there. Like it's the car park's full. Okay. And I walk in and I'm expecting to see, the local team Yarraville. I don't even know their colours.
Yeah.
Just playing a game of it's a turf wicket.
Do you know what the Yarraville, like what their moniker is? The Yarraville Dolphins or something?
No, I don't know. They wear dark blue. Okay. I think.
Okay.
I'm a colourblind man.
Yeah. Okay.
But anyway,
the Yarraville Mongooses.
Yeah, that's right. The Yarraville Blue Whales.
The famous blue whales.
I walk in. I don't know what level it is. They're not playing with wheelie bins, but it's not Premier Cricket. And
are the stumps different brands of stumps, like a couple of Grey Nichols and one Kookaburra?
Couldn't see that far, but it could be, And I walk in and there's a car park and there are cars that are like, look like, because there's a hill in the car park. There are cars that have driven in, can't get a spot in the car park proper, so they drive onto the hill. Some of the cars look like they're at a 45-degree tipping point and may roll at any second. That's the level we're talking about.
Yeah, sort of like a lover's lookout, except for grade cricket or park cricket or whatever.
I've just walked into the car park and I'm trying to kind of bundle my children onto the footpath proper off the road where the car park is, just because your kids have got ice cream, there's cars. Anyway, I look up at the scoreboard and I just sort of squint a little bit. Yeah. As I say, oh, Yarraville's in the field. Yeah. And then I look at the scoreboard and I see it's a digital scoreboard.
Okay.
Other side of the ground.
Bit of money knocking about.
It's Yarraville. Yarraville's a nice area.
Electric scoreboard. Come on.
It's a nice ground. It's a nice pavilion.
I like the scoreboards where you have to do yourself with your digits, and like when you get stuck and it fucking hurts your little pointer finger there. Nothing worse.
And I just squint a little bit, and I'm like, does that scoreboard say, it's 2 batters in, does that say Karuna Ratner? hang on a second.
Okay.
Hang on a second.
Yeah.
And then I say, that says Endeavour Hills.
Yes.
And
oh, the big derby.
there's Dimuth Karunaratne at the crease.
Yeah,
and,
okay.
And so the wheels start turning.
Okay,
you know, in
now
the head,
we're talking, yeah.
He's on 90, not out.
I bet he is.
He's on 90. Another bloke at the crease, didn't recognise his name.
Yeah.
And which is normally the case.
That's usually the case, yeah. Recognise
past the
blokes'
Yarraville
names usually,
Oval.
yeah.
And looking at the score, doing my calculations, I'm like, all right, that's 40 overs gone. Okay, this is one dayer. 99, where's he back? I couldn't see where he was in the order. Is he sort of at late? He didn't look like he's really middling them. But I was like, no, that's Karunaratne and this is Endeavour Hills. I'm like, you ripper. That's great. The boys have got their Sharon. We're going to do a lap.
Yep.
There's Karunaratne. I can walk, you can walk past the teams, get a little sense. And sure enough, the Yarraville boys are there, and I didn't know them, but I walk up and someone said something nice, and I was
you've
like,
been recognised straight away.
I said,
surely.
just walking past, make sure the boys are sort of listening.
Yeah.
Not that they give one fuck, but
what does Dad do?
and I'm like, oh, this is so. That's Karuna. I don't know why I said that's Karunaratne. Who the fuck else is it going to be?
Yeah, right.
And
yeah,
he's on 99. He's inching his way to 100.
Yeah.
And they're like, I'm like, oh, great. I've got something to talk about in the show this week. This is good. Yeah. And so we're standing there watching him, and I've got footage on my phone. And so he's on 99 knot, and he affects the single to bring up his 100.
A famous 100.
And I got to say, like, I should have set this context up better. Like, bowling's okay. It's like guys can bowl with a straight arm.
Yeah. No one's chucking it. Yeah. There are no long sleeves at Yarraville.
The kits are good. Like everyone's like, Yarraville has a good one day kit. Blue, Endeavour Hill's got their colours.
Okay, I was throwing colours. Okay,
colours. And maybe there's a number I can't remember on the back. I don't think so. Anyway, sponsors and stuff.
Yeah, okay.
Anyway, Railway Hotel's a sponsor. That's a good pub.
Just from the local rubber tugs, that sort of stuff.
I didn't see that, but it could have been a sleeve sponsor. I don't know.
Mary's massage parlour.
I'm not familiar with what would be around the area, but anyway. And he's labouring there. Anyway, and
I want a deep tissue. How deep? Well, it's a little better going through the prostate.
Get it going through the prostate. And sure enough, he kind of he mishits another one. And he sort of scampers a signal through to like mid on. He may have had a chance to run him out, but he didn't really. And I tell you what, it was celebrations deluxe for Dimuth Karunaratne, who averaged 40 in Test cricket, played 82 Tests with 14 Test hundreds. And weren't his mates giving it large too?
Really?
Oh, they were up out of their chairs, and like 100's 100. Kind of liked it, I guess. Yeah. And in the throes of the celebrations, the Yarraville guys start laughing on the sidelines, going, "It's fucking park cricket, mate." Karunaratne had the helmet off.
Yeah.
Both arms aloft.
Yeah. Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, both arms aloft.
So it wasn't the Sri Lankan league, was it?
No, it wasn't. No, it was full Endeavour Hills kid. To be fair
respect.
To him,
That's respect. That's respect.
And so that was good. And then walked past Endeavour Hills, less conversation there, and they just look like guys who play cricket. To be fair to them,
And most of them pros.
And then you look like let's not be too much of it, like too sledge it too much. I mean, it's a guy with 14 Test hundreds scoring a wheelie bin century. I mean, what am I going to fucking say?
Right.
But it looked like a sort of a Sri Lankan club, and so the guys, I'm not expecting to walk past and have guys fucking smoking durries and talking shit out the side of their mouths because they're probably just normal guys who like cricket, So walk past that, going for a lap around the oval. Some other people said some strange things to me, and then on the side, I'm sort of accosting my children a little bit.
Like what?
One guy was with one guy. All right, well, I don't know if he listens. One guy's with what must be his partner or his wife or something, but he's standing 5 meters away from her, and there's no sight screens at this ground, by the way. Notice that.
Okay, that's good 100.
I think a good 100. Yeah, that's right. And he goes like he's saying to my kids forward too. There's very little.
Yeah,
he's like, stay away from that bad lady over there. He says kind of jokingly, stay away from that mean lady. And the kids are like, if you say that to kids, they're like, well, what?
I don't understand the context of like,
you've been with Jenny for 20 years.
Come on, Robbo. Pull the other one.
We're pulling me leg again. Right,
what are we on race 2? You want race 2?
You winning that day, Rob? So we walk past them and then walking around the oval and then Karunaratne gets out. bowled.
A stoic innings.
Yeah, he's tried to lap a bloke and he's been bowled. And no one congratulates him as he walks off. There's no no one ostentatiously comes up and shakes his hand or anything. And I'm walking around the ground, and then there's a bloke from Yarraville at fine leg, and as I'm walking past, he turns around and goes, "Do you reckon this is wheelie bin park shit or what?" I'm like, nah, this looks all right. The guys are executing Yorkers. And I said, have you picked up anyone? So he goes, yeah, I got Curran a rat. And I'm like, oh, mate, one in the back pocket. Yeah. One in the back pocket. And he goes, oh, mate. He goes, Dilshan's here too. He's like, Dilshan turned... He goes, Dilshan turned up 2 hours before the game, scratched him off down leg for 20.
Oh, fucking hell. Fuck me.
I just thought the park aesthetic won the day, you know. Well, it was a real leveler. Like, you know, Dilshan, 20, gets there 2 hours before. Cricket's still cricket. Like, I thought that it would be like a appropriate story amidst the glitz and the glamour of 80,000 at the MCG for India and all that kind of shit. Sure. You know, you can still scratch off Dilshan for 20.
You know what? To be fair, they must have struggled to replace Darwood Milan, who actually went down with a groin, didn't he, in that game? So he couldn't play on Saturday for him.
Issues. Yeah, that's right.
They could be short. They could be short. That's what makes trouble for the twos, because someone's got to come up and it weakens the whole club, you know? A guy like Darwood Milan can't play for the club on Saturdays. Yeah. Goodness me.
Kusal Mendes play twos for Endeavour or something. Bring him up. Anyway, I thought that was just a wholesome story of real cricket.
That's great.
Then I walked past the frog box machine, like the frog box camera, and said something about wheelie bin shit, seeing if anyone picked that up.
Oh, nice.
You know,
I'm sure someone can find that.
It's not all fucking press boxes and Harsha Bogle and shit. You know what I mean? This is real.
This is the real stuff. The real stuff. Okay. Since we last spoke, a lot has happened, not just in TGC, but in the world of cricket as well. We want to thank all the people who came to our Melbourne show at the Corner Hotel on Wednesday night. When we booked that date and that venue, that was supposed to be in the midst of Australia's, rise towards, at least the finals, to defend the crown.
Minimum.
To defend our crown. Cricket was coming home.
Yeah, of course.
Unfortunately, by the time that live show started, Australia were knocked out of the tournament. But it was a great night nonetheless. We had Will Bukowski on stage. He was in fantastic form, great laughs, good chat. I feel like there was good energy in the room. Wednesday night, it's a very polite crowd, but it was Wednesday. They gave up their Wednesday night to come and see us. I've actually got a couple of reviews here that people have written in from Patreon. Can I read them to you?
Yeah, please.
Bill said, really enjoyed the show the other night, boys. Gag of the night was bringing Sharon on stage as a prop, presumably because we're in Melbourne, and then not referencing it for the entire night. Also very much enjoyed when you asked for a show of hands who was enjoying the T20 World Cup, and max 2 people put their hands up. Everyone in the crowd has paid money to go to a live show of a cricket podcast, but at the same time, everyone there knows not to reveal that you enjoy something lest it be used against you. A psychoanalyst could have a field day with that audience. Loving all the content. Cheers, Phyllis. And then just another one, Pez, while I've got a roll on going here. Thomas said, live show review. Boys, jubilantly. Long time, third time. Attended your live show in Melbourne on Wednesday, and I could not recommend it enough. Puck was hilarious, and the way he spoke about various topics was sensational. He goes, there's a harem of women in the second row to watch him, possibly wearing his stolen Higo smugglers. Pez sledged my mate for shouting out something during the show. 10 out of 10 worth the money, and the hoodie is top notch. Good little customer. Love you both, Tom. And then he said nice things, which I'm not going to read out. So anyway, the live show tickets, look, they're gone in 3 of the cities now. I think there's
for the summer tour.
For the summer tour, which is in Perth, Adelaide, Brisbane, Melbourne, and Sydney. I think it actually might be in that order. There are, as we record, there are 11 tickets left for Melbourne. I recommend getting in if you want it. That's on the 27th. Ricky Ponting is joining us on stage. Sydney, both shows are gone for Sydney, and Perth is also sold out. Sydney, Shane Watson is joining us on stage for that. And for Brisbane, Justin Langer will be joining us. There are some tickets left for Brisbane. There are some tickets left for Adelaide. I sincerely recommend getting in quick because they are going. Obviously, 3 of those 5 cities have already sold out. You can get it at greycricketer.com/live-shows. You can just go to our website, greycricketer.com.
Yeah, hover around for the word live shows and click it, then that'll take you to the same place.
You know how to use the internet. Of course, all the audio we've been doing has been been dropping on Patreon. It's patreon.com/greatcricketer. Many of those people are joining us in the crowd for our live shows. But yeah, we just want people to come to the live shows this summer because it's been a hot minute since we've been on stage, and it's great fun. We had a great time on Wednesday. So thank you to everyone who came to that show on Wednesday at the Corner Hotel. GreatCricketer.com. Bring some mates along. It's going to be summer soon. The real cricket starts, so you might feel more inclined to sort of be in the moment when the summer starts. Now, in the meantime, there's a warm-up tournament happening before the summer starts, and it's called the T20 World Cup. I believe it's pronounced.
Right.
Australia's out of it. Australia is out of the World Cup. They finished equal points with England and New Zealand. The net run rate was an issue from day one after that first game against New Zealand. But they're out. They finished third in the group. Only top two make it through. The semis are sorted. But Australia's gone. Our problem is that we care about it. That's our problem because a lot of people don't. That also kind of hurts a bit because I feel like we should care, but we don't. And I think people are trying to care about the tests, and the tests aren't going to be a thing for much longer.
Yeah, I'm torn. I'm torn because Australia has not achieved the high bar of expectation that the public puts on it, even though the public is less than semi-interested in the thing.
Yeah.
And then you've got to have a full spill of all positions in the side, which probably should happen given they're in their 30s. And you've got to have a lot of hand wringing, and then you've got to have a lot of agenda pursuit as well, a lot of as a particular kind of group of people who've probably been sharpening knives since somewhere around the last summer.
The transition of some leadership positions.
Those knives are super sharp. Unfortunately, Australia did well for a long time and won in Pakistan and did a couple of things. But now the knives are out. So there's that. But I do think that it is cause for some concern. I do think that I think the issues around Australia's performance in the World Cup aren't necessarily about this tournament in and of itself. I think more concerning or a little bit unsettling has been the general lack of interest from Australia as a public, in the tournament itself. Right. I think that the performance of the team, if you could speak, the performance of the team was a little bit reflective of that. Mm-hmm. I wasn't even aware that if you put cricket on in October in Australia, that what the public will do is say no, cricket is deeply seasonal in this country.
It surprised me as well. Yeah,
it's a. And this is a game that's trying to turn itself, I suppose, into a 24/7, 365 cricketers as lemmings kind of pursuit. But in Australia, it's we play footy until this time, and then we do about 4 more weeks of footy coverage because guys are doing time trials or just a little bit of carryover from the season. Then everyone's at the races getting drunk, basically, and it's changeover season, and people are doing their HSC, and then
same group of people sometimes,
and then when you can smell summer and the sun is out, then we'll have a look at a bit of cricket. I'm only going to have a look at cricket in Australia if I feel I'm getting a few Christmas parties into me, and there's the hue of the light is bright enough that I can think about cricket, and that work is ending and the holidays are nearing. I think that's what we learned through all of this, and it was for a game that's future cricket is T20, it's domestic circuits and all that sort of shit. There's obviously a certain rigidity to how, to when cricket takes off in Australia that might be telling us it's 10 to 12 weeks a year.
Yeah.
The nation's into it, the nation wants it.
Right.
How do you take the nation beyond that? I don't know. Maybe we should just accept it. I don't know. That's what I got from it. We can go into the team and selections and shit like that as well.
Well, there's sort of two arguments, but they both sort of cross over in some sort of Venn diagram. It's there's the performance of the team, and then there's also when are we going to get better at this? Because no one Cricket's going to get taken away from Australia. Now, we were speaking before about how for broadly 100 years, England controlled the game. Then after Kerry Packer created World Series cricket, then Australia ruled the game for X number of years until about whatever many years ago. To what he was saying, 2010, something like that. Then now India control cricket, right? And part of the lack of interest I feel like that Australians have with T20 cricket is that for the most part, every domestic and international T20 tournament exists in a time zone that Australians just simply cannot watch it. So there's already no interest in it. Then there's also like the cultural significance of our test matches tied into Christianity, i.e. Christmas and time off, summer. It's of course tied into Jesus.
12 disciples, that was... that was his first 11.
That's right. That's wealthy. And Andy Bickle was running drinks.
Judas, every team's had a Judas. More than one.
So it is tied in, and it's more pronounced because the IPL deal, which has just happened, is just so revolutionary to cricket and where it's going that Australia's not woken up to it yet. And I do also think there's a factor that it's been La Nina 3 years in a row. It has been so fucking wet in Australia, which, as we know, is now just the rainy season. But that is also a factor. And I wonder if it was like typically warmer, as it can be, especially in the northern cities. I would even include Sydney. That's often warm in October and November. But it's been so wet, and so it doesn't feel like summer's here either. So there is like this sort of circadian rhythm to our experience of cricket. When like it becomes warmer, we stop wearing hoodies and we start wearing shirts and polos, and it's like, okay, now it's the cricket season. Yeah. So all these things are wrapped up in also the performance of the team because. but then there's also another element, if I can conflate even more arguments here, where Glenn Maxwell, who just plays like an enormous amount of tournaments, is like, it doesn't really matter. This tournament in Australia was also supposed to be before COVID. It was supposed to be 2020. Then there was one last year. There's also one in 2 years' time. There's a 50-over World Cup. The Big Bash is on. The Big Bash goes for 2 months. There's a test summer ahead. When's the Ashes starting? Too much cricket, too much interest. The Big Bash goes for too long. Did I already say that?
Can I read that Glenn Maxwell quote to you,
please.
By the way?
Yeah.
I think it's really it's worth reflecting on.
It is,
quote. It was after Sri Lanka failed to beat England to keep Australia in the tournament, and it's been reported widely. He said, and I'll just pick out the ones that work for me. No, he said, you can't dwell on it. I think you move on pretty quickly. We've got a one-day series against England, probably 24 hours later. And then we've got the Big Bash, and then we've got 4-day cricket. Cricket never stops, so you don't get time to dwell. Maybe when you retire, you think back to it, it would have been nice to win that, but it doesn't mean anything. I wish we had have won, but we didn't, which has since been reported as Maxwell saying it didn't mean anything. That was the big thing that stuck out. But the thing that strikes me about Maxwell's comments is that, we ask guys to be candid in cricket. That's a deeply candid comment from a player. And, can you blame a guy who is playing in an economy that's been arranged to make him a lemming of cricket, a Pac-Man just eating up cricket balls and Indian rupees and US dollars in the one colour.
Is that the one colour?
Tournament after tournament after tournament. I mean, it would, as a way to cope with cricket, it would breed that kind of approach. And he's just being honest about that. I wonder whether he would have said it if Australia had made the semis, or the finals. There's probably some defensive-ness to it. But really, this is one impact of making so much cricket on all the time. You're going to get players, and people sort of intone this anyway, you're going to get players for whom it doesn't... they can't play if it's life or death all the time because there's just another game around the corner. Like he's saying sort of facetiously 24 hours later. It's not exactly 24 hours later, but it's fucking pretty not close. Far on, off from that. And so it's no wonder players kind of adopt the attitude of we're mates. I don't take it to heart too seriously because I've got to play another game straight away. It's literally how you evolve your mentality to it.
The captain, Aaron Finch, before the tournament said that the boys are tired. Virat Kohli took a break beforehand. Ben Stokes has taken a break from cricket. Meg Lanning has taken a break from cricket. There's so many men and women who are taking a break from the sport because of the endless cycle. Now, what's interesting is that also New Zealand and India are playing in a T20 series 2 days after the World Cup final. The England and Australia are playing ODIs. I get the feeling that there actually might be more people in Australia who will turn up to those ODIs than there will be. I mean, on a Friday night, Australia must-win game. Good weather in Adelaide. Australia-Afghanistan. It ends up being a great game. 18,000 people. There is That is an unbelievably low number. It's almost embarrassing. It's almost an embarrassing number. Now, like there must be reasons for that. Like not everyone needs to like cricket as much as I do or you do or people even listen to this show. But there's obviously reasons where people are like, not interested. I'm not. It may be cultural. It may be a time zone thing. I'm not sure. It may be that the team isn't lovable. Maybe, I mean, they literally won the World Cup. So they have won some stuff. It's good players, but like, there's a reason why no one cares, and it's trying hard to figure it all out. I suppose it might be more interesting for people to maybe actually dissect what happened in the tournament, and it's interesting that
they didn't play very good cricket.
They didn't play good
by
cricket,
the same token, or did they actually just play the cricket that they've been playing for a long time? You know, and we've talked to Ed Cowan already, who's coming up on the show.
Yeah, it was a good chat.
It contextualised what happened last year. Like, don't take anything away from them winning that tournament last year, but really, like, this tournament for Australia felt like a regression to the mean. This is generally how they perform in T20 World Cups. That they had a very bad start against New Zealand. They had a clear job in front of them. They couldn't really put together any cricket to make up that gap. I mean, there was all this stuff about, they could have, Lorcan and Tucker got in their way, Rashid Khan got in their way, but these guys got in their way because they're just good and Australia couldn't get them out. It wasn't like an underperformance. Yeah,
they're not better. They just T20 cricket's good. Like
Australia win by a couple of runs against Afghanistan. Yeah, it's probably about where they are, sixth in the world. That's it. It's like. And so, but the question is, it's underperformance relative to the resources of Australian cricket.
Yes. Yes.
I don't know. And I'm just a guy who wants to walk past the TV and his country to be good. I don't really care how it happens. As long as you sort of commit to my full political spectrum of beliefs,
of course,
in your economics, etc.
That's right.
As long as you do those things, like sort of reflect my values, perform at the best in a zero-sum game against other nations, particularly rising nations economically, then I'm fine. But the moment that doesn't happen, that's going to cause a problem for me. Like I'll have an emotion maybe I'll just have any emotion, for a minute or two and then get on with my day. And look, that's not good for business.
I think an interesting one, Pez, is that I don't think there is another bowling attack in the world that basically has the same test bowling attack as T20s. Yeah. Now, that's not to say that any of the guys who played in this World Cup for Australia are necessarily bad T20 bowlers, necessarily. But it's just such a specialised skill. And it is interesting that other countries perhaps are more focusing on their T20 cricket, maybe. I'm not sure about this, but maybe, because they're not getting any test cricket, so they're more developing their skills. They've more guys with better T20 skills because they're just playing in T20 tournaments, maybe. But it is interesting.
Maybe the boys got a bit comfortable, you know what I mean? Won the comp last year, chuck us all down on the team sheet. Get a little reward at home. Yeah. Got a bit comfortable, the boys.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, before last year's World Cup, Australia was 6th in the world. They won the World Cup and then they just lost basically every second series from there and they finished, let's call it 5th in this World Cup. I mean, if they were in Group 2, they won more games than Pakistan. Pakistan lost 2 games. What Australia's tournament comes down to is basically they didn't get on against England.
Yeah, but they could have been out of the tournament, mate.
England could have fucking smashed Australia. In fact, England would have been favourites going into that game, I'm sure. Despite, in fact, England never won a T20 game in the MCG, but I reckon that might change soon. So it's hard to tell. It's really hard to tell, but that's also the volatility of T20 cricket, isn't it? It is really hard to tell, but it just feels like. I mean, I think people had questions anyway. Nice to see Josh Inglis playing Marsh Cup though. I don't know. It's let me read you something from Patreon, Pez. Joshua wrote him. Boys, if Australia fucking come out in the presser and say, we dropped Stark for the upcoming supper, then fucking shit in a cup and feed it to my cat, because fuck me. How can they say they care about cricket if our best swing bowler isn't playing against a country who's meant to be fucking nothing in our eyes, just like when Nan walks out to the middle at Christmas, she becomes nothing but beamers and it's fun. This was meant to be fun for Australia, but instead I'm left fucking not caring either because my country doesn't care about cricket anymore. Or as if we don't care because of La Nina. I don't fucking know, and I don't fucking care. I may as well say to my club coach, make me a specialist number 11 back because I don't care. That's the feeling I got from this World Cup. Australian cricket doesn't care. By the way, that was all one sentence. So,
I mean,
breathless, Joshua.
We expect nothing other than just sheer dominance and victories at all costs and all times. And unless that's happening, Even though you can mathematically work out, well, other teams are going to have a go. It's like, that doesn't really matter. Like, we just expect to be the best at all times, and I don't really care how it gets done. I'm going to get on with my life, and I want Australia to win. Semis at least, semis and blow up about umpire decisions at least.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, I suppose we should speak to Ed Cowan because we crossed across some of these themes anyway, didn't we?
Yeah.
But before them, we need to thank our dear friends at Budgie Smuggler, the new underwear range.
Mate, light and breathable.
Use the code ALPHA for 20% off at checkout at budgiesmuggler.com.
I'm looking outside in Melbourne. Melbourne's done it, finally. Melbourne's actually found itself offering something that looks like a summer or a sun, which is sensational.
It did just stop raining.
I forgot. It was raining for a bit. But this morning anyway. All right, fucking go. I need this. And,
it was nice this morning.
When you see sun like that, you think, I wouldn't mind a light and breathable little undie there, little Reg Grundy.
I wouldn't mind that.
I'm out in the land now. I don't want flies to get me mouth. And we're offering that value to you with Budgie Smuggler. You're getting 20% off using the code ALPHA. You can get one pair, you can get 5 pair. I'm just offering deluxe.
Yeah. Budgiesmuggler.com. Use the code ALPHA at budgiesmuggler.com.au. And Pez, our dear friends at T20 Stars. Now, Pez, I want people to be getting around T20 Stars, as also Shane Watson, who that interview sort of disappeared for a bit, then got back up. That was weird.
I don't know what happened there.
But that interview with Shane Watson is now live. You can find it on YouTube.
It went up, it went down, and then it landed again when a lot of other interviews about his book landed. Yeah. Just all coincidence.
That
really
was raw coincidence. Anyway, it's also on the podcast feed as well. But Watto has obviously got his mitts all over T20 Stars, T20stars.com. Gloves, kit, pads.
Bundles, 15% off bundles.
Ooh,
everyone,
yes,
site-wide,
please.
not even a code. Just get involved in the bundle. You don't even need to type anything in.
No, it used to be TGC 15 if you were a friend of the show. Now it's just open slather.
Absolute open slather. Which is what he's promising you with his new book as well, actually, if you apply a few of his thought processes. And he's apply the thought processes, open slather.
Now, in the series, in the road safety series and also the legend series, Watto was playing both of those. We were actually talking to Watto off air about how he took down Graham Swan. Now, you can see some footage of that. He's using T20 Stars kit, as is Mitch Johnson, as is Brett Lee's son.
And did Mitch Johnson take down Irfan Pathan, or was it Yusuf Pathan with T20 Stars kit, or was that more just with his words and his dignity?
I took him down with his dignity.
Yeah.
Anyway, you can get all that stuff at T20stars.com. Bundles, 15% off. It's just value. You know what? Here he is. Here's the great man. Here's Ed Cowan.
It's been a little while since we've had him on, but he does remain the best friend of the show. It's Ed Cowan. He has a hard stop in about 20 minutes. I've seen his calendar. He's part of the investment team at TDM Growth Partners, and so we will have a very serious conversation right now. Ed, welcome back to the show.
Oh, what a treat. I thought I got invited. Either one of two things were happening. One, this was the official start of summer, obviously, as the one Antonio Samaranch of the grade cricket. I get to declare that the season is open. But if that's not the case, as it turns out, and I've misread this situation, it feels like due to some kind of budgetary constraints, you made a request for, I don't know, Hardik Pandya. He asked for 20 large, and you're like, shit, we need a guest on the show. We'll call our old mate Ted. He'll do it. He wants to stay relevant. Here I am. Hi.
And he's only doing it for 10 large as well. So it's cut price rate. Mates rates.
Exactly. Mates rates. Cashy. Everyone loves a cashy.
Yeah. It's so exciting though, because it is the start of the summer now. Now, what's going to happen in the test matches?
Oh, wow. Is there a test series? Who's playing in that?
Not
the
sure.
The West Indies are playing the
Windies.
Netherlands, because that's about their standard at the moment. That's going to be a humdinger.
And we'll get to it. We'll get to the
okay. And I've got another story to tell momentarily as well. Before we can I just have the floor for a moment?
Okay, yeah, that's just flowing well. Let's go. It's been
Sure. So just I just want to share something with you because I haven't had the chance, but I was lucky enough to be in New York for work, and this guy who I was meeting was like one of the key Morgan Stanley bankers of the world. I think he'd sold the Houston Astros the week before. He's like the guy in sports, entertainment, and media. I thought he wanted to meet me because I played 18 tests for Australia. Evidently not. First question: Do you know the grade cricketer? This Indian guy. I'm thinking, what? You guys have blown up. Since the last time I was here, you've gone from small time studio to New York Broadway. Unbelievable. I'm so proud of you guys. It's like the that little baby that you see grow up. It's amazing.
I don't know.
Over to you. Sorry, I've had my.
I don't know how to do. Yeah, I don't know how to deal with that.
Very off brand. Yeah. Now, as we go to where Australia has been, the only way you can be out of a World Cup is to be dumped or to crash out of a World Cup.
Could be bundled. You definitely get bundled out of World Cups.
Yeah, as well. Did they bundle themselves out? Like, what did you make of Australia's campaign?
A self-inflicted bundle. Interesting. I would say my main feeling towards their campaign is unsurprising. Nothing about it and the mediocrity to which they played was surprising, which is sad because we all want to be on Team Australia. But this was hard to kind of watch because you could see the train crash coming probably from 3 years ago, really. And I know we got a bit lucky and we're the world champions, but in fact, we're ranked 6th in the world is our official ICC ranking. And that kind of feels exactly where we are in the world in this format. I think winning the World Cup 12 months ago probably didn't allow us to make the changes that were needed, and we now have in fact reaped what we sowed many years ago. So hopefully this is the watershed moment that changes the nature of the team. It's a format that we haven't yet mastered by no stretch of the imagination. So that's my overarching feeling. I don't know if you've got anything to add there, Pez.
Oh, I think, yeah, like I think it probably contextualizes the win last year. But to your point about Australia being 6th in the world, so they probably end up finishing up exactly where they deserve to finish.
Yeah.
Given that we're supposedly one of the big 3 nations and we're much better resourced than pretty much every other country when it comes to cricket, like why do you think the country chronically underperforms or maybe doesn't invest or whatever it is in this particular format? Why are we not as good as we probably should be?
That might take more dissection than I can give in a short amount of time, but it's a really interesting topic. And whether you want to point to the depth of the Big Bash and the structuring of how that competition has kind of played out over the last couple of years, and the biggest bellwether I think is how many Australians are playing in the IPL, because that is a moment where there's no emotion attached to selection. It is purely driven by outcomes. And so there's no relationships that need to be managed. The best players are at the IPL. And slowly over time, the number of Australians who not just go to the IPL, but who actually play week to week and are then, even smaller percentage are match winners, you can count them, not even on one hand. And so that's a great indication of the quality of T20 cricketer that we're producing. The why, I think, maybe as a society in Australia, we haven't valued this format of the game as much as other nations. It's the way other nations feel like they can compete. And we've seen that with the emergence of some incredible, results and upsets, because T20 is really the vehicle for these associate or lesser known cricketing nations to make a statement. So all their resourcing is going into T20 cricket, and we are still focused on other formats of the game, rightly or wrongly.
I completely agree with that, Ted. And also, I mean, maybe it might be alarmist, but at this World Cup, you were saying to me off air that this is like Australia's the oldest team in the tournament. You look at the bowlers; they're all plus 30s, and then Australia played their B team against England, didn't they? In the warm up series beforehand, and everyone was like, "Wow, it's just the B team." But that's like the next crop, and the next crop ain't great. Like in comparative terms, because I think we've spent so much time focusing on if we can bet the West Indies, on the Gold Coast.
Carrara.
Yeah, that's right. So
Aren't they a team, the West Indies? I mean, that was some big fixtures as it turned out. 6 were playing 9th in the world, and we're trying to get excited.
On Cavill Ave, exactly. I think, but like we could be facing a bit of a time where we're actually further and further behind, because the more we focus on, the bat off in the Sheffield Shield, other countries are more focusing on the T20 cricket, because that's how they compete. So, and like our next cabs don't feel like they're even that good.
Yeah, they're like lifts, not even Ubers, let alone the next cabs.
DDs.
But it's an interesting point he goes, and I think you could kind of the counter to that argument is they are good, but they haven't been given the extended opportunity to find a role in the team and actually grow into that. And so you go back to the original point of who are those players who are emerging in IPL teams. You look at a Tim David, you look at a Nathan Ellis, you look at a Jai Richardson, and potentially a Hayden Kerr in the future. These are the style of player that you can't just expect them to turn up to international cricket at, without the context of really giving them a defined role in that team, and without an extended run, and expect them to perform. And so if there is going to be turnover in the team, they really need to invest in who they think the next bunch of cricketers are and give them a good solid run before the 24 World Cup.
You're an administrator of sorts, Ed. Like you're on the Cricket New South Wales board. I don't know if I was meant to kind of mollify that comment or whatever. I mean, I know you're an investment, in the investment team at TDM Growth Partners, but on the question of Australia's underinvestment in T20 cricket or underperformance or whatever you want to call it, and then this kind of more intangible question about the public's relationship to the format. We've seen through this tournament, we could barely grab a crowd for must-win high-stakes World Cup matches played by the host nation at home. As an administrator, do you think the deeper truth is that like cricket is super seasonal here in Australia, and that the public is really wedded to red ball success? And if that is the case, or if you accept that, what do you do as an administrator to try and bring the public along the journey, for want of a better cliche, of where the future of cricket is? Can you get Australians to enjoy year-round T20 cricket when we love our footy so much and we've only got so many people here? What do you do?
Another big question. So
if you get that
just to break it down, so I think two things come to mind, and that is T20 international cricket needs context, and there's nothing more contextual than a World Cup. So when I say that, and I think people aren't turning up to watch the Australian team, it's like the Wallabies. People don't turn up to watch your home team lose. And so there was almost this sense of we're not a great team, maybe, and it played out exactly that. Am I going to give up my Tuesday night at 7:30? Maybe it's going to rain. I've got 3 kids and I'm going to go to work tomorrow morning. And it plays back to the question about, as an administrator, how would you change the psychology of the public? It comes back to me, the success of the Big Bash and how we've fiddled with it, how it, despite, the protestations of otherwise, it has really been a bit of an abject failure the last couple of years, by every metric, and you can spin it however you want. And so in the psychological version of the story that the public tells themselves is, do I really care about this? I don't care about T20 cricket. I don't really think the players really care about it. And then you have Glenn Maxwell come out and say that it doesn't really hurt to lose or to be bundled out of a World Cup. And the narrative is exactly as they are telling themselves it to be. So you need to change it from the bottom and the ground up. And all of a sudden you have a great team, and people we know, support great teams. That is fact. And so if it's a team worth supporting, like it is now in the Test team, people turn up to watch that. Don't know if that answered the question. It's a roundabout kind of commentary, but
make the team good and make Big Bash good.
No, I wanted to add as well that I wonder if the Australian public is maybe just a little bit off the team. And I know the teams are different between white ball and red ball, but I wonder if there seems to be a lot of negative press, especially post Sandpaper, into post Langer, into post Alinta. It does
a little on the nose. You think it's getting a little whiffy.
I think so, because I mean, it's just continual negative press, and like, because if the team isn't winning a lot of games, I mean, they literally won the Ashes in the World Cup last year, so maybe that doesn't ring true at all. But I just get the feeling like there's not many heroes that the supporters get behind. I thought Cummins might have been, but Cummins feels a bit like ever since he took over the captaincy, and he stabbed the coach in the back. That's how it was perceived. I wonder if there's people aren't turning up because it's like, who do I want to see today?
Interesting narrative. And there's no doubt blockbuster names is what sell tickets. Bums on seats are by box office players. We know that. And so you might be right. You're closer to the average man on the cricket street than I am, Higo. So you're probably better to comment. I don't necessarily get that sense. I think I'm not sure the T20 World Cup has been sold as an event as well as it probably should be. It's a delayed event, and you couldn't tell really who was playing who on any given night. It was a bit of a traveling circus. So I found it hard from a live viewpoint. I know our office is certainly talking about the event. I think it's on the tip of everyone's tongues because it has been a phenomenal event. It just so happens that Australia isn't part of that phenom.
Just on that point, like, what have you liked in the tournament? Are you into it? I mean, you're not the average man.
Totally into it. I'm all in. I'm all in.
Are you? Yeah, you're all in. What have you liked about it? What do you see coming up in the tournament too?
So I tend not to watch too much T20, bilateral T20 cricket. It's nice to stay in touch and invest in the game, but it's also hard to watch the West Indies play New Zealand at 3:00 in the morning. So to see the nature of the game and the tactics of the game and how they've evolved in a very short space of time, and I think we've seen the emergence of power hitting more broadly over the last 2 or 3 years, and we probably haven't given that credence, and it shows up on the bigger grounds. I've loved the unpredictability and the emergence of these lesser known nations and players on the world stage. On any given day, you can have the Netherlands beat South Africa or Namibia beat Sri Lanka. And so T20 cricket really is the vehicle for cricket to be globalized, truly globalized. And we're seeing that with a bit of investment and a little bit of love and a little bit of care from the cricket community, that you can have a global sport. And that excites me because it's pretty effing boring watching the same 5 countries play each other the whole time. So that's excited me. I think the conditions have been superb, and it brings in, a style of cricket that's really attractive. The pace of the ball brings in 360-degree players, and so the best players have risen, and it allows fast bowlers to really participate in the game. So in terms of balance of bat and ball and the skill, it's hard not to admire what has been going on. So it's been wonderful. And the way the crowds have been involved, I mean, largely subcontinental, have held it up because, the Australian crowds are, as you say, have been pretty average. But I've loved it. I think it's been by far and away the best tournament I can remember from the ICC point of view.
We've got England, New Zealand, Pakistan, India left, all of them with their own narratives and matchups and stuff. But who have you got and who do you want? They might be too.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think we all want India to play Pakistan in the final. I think that's just the heartstrings being pulled left, right, and center. It's hard not to see India lifting the trophy. They've just got all their bases covered and they're playing, I think, the best cricket. My heart says Pakistan over New Zealand, but my head probably says New Zealand. And I think England, who were my tournament favourites beforehand, just haven't put the performances together at any one time to really shine. Where I feel like India, momentum matters, and they've certainly not only got the personnel, but they've got the performances on the board. So my gut feel says India are going to be lifting the trophy, but I'd love to see India play Pakistan, the MCG, in front of 5 billion people hanging from the roof.
I know you got a hard finish coming up here, Ed, so I'll throw you a little bone here. You do a great podcast, Grandstand Cricket Podcast with Corby there. Anything you'd like to say about the little show that you do?
No, I mean, all I'll say is you can listen to both. We provide different. This is where I come for my laughs, and and that's not to say your insights into the game aren't remarkable.
No,
Both of
this
you.
is like Ross and Rachel, in Friends. Like Rachel had great sex with one guy, and she said Ross was great for laughs. He was just in the corner of the room doing jokes while she was having hard sex.
That's it. I mean, if you were going to describe Corby and I, that's probably exactly how I'd love to be described.
That's great. It is a great car. I listen every week. Ed, thanks so much for joining us, mate. I don't think the summer started, so I'd like to have you back for the actual summer of the summer commencing. This is just some weird chat about small white ball stuff that doesn't matter because we didn't win. So, cheers, mate.
I love you guys. Thanks for having me.
Right. There he was.
And there he was. It must be the summer. It must be summer now that Ted's on the show. We're warming up. All right, let's talk about the rest of the World Cup, Pez.
What do you like?
South Africa fucked it.
Yeah, bed
South Africa fucked it. Now, you were telling me Mark Boucher said that this is the worst of it. Now, we're trying to rank South Africa's fuck-ups in World Cups.
It's going to be impossible. There's going to be things that we just don't remember.
I have to tell you, that home World Cup in 2003, when they were playing against Sri Lanka, and Murali is bowling to Mark Boucher.
That's right.
And it's the last over before a rain break because, at that point, it's already raining.
Yes.
And Boucher takes Murali down the ground. I think it's down the ground, sort of cow cornerish, and he hits him for 6. And then all of a sudden, he thinks that South Africa are ahead of the run rate. So they've made the calculation.
And Tony Greig is commentating at that time.
And he knows that they're not behind.
He says there's a ball left. If they go off after this ball, all South Africa needs is one run. He didn't say exactly like that. He would have said it better than that. Yeah. Much more interestingly than that.
He was good.
He was.
I would have loved to have seen it.
I didn't appreciate
the size of it.
The
sheer size of Tony Greig.
It looked like an enormous man.
Yes.
It looked enormous.
It looked enormous.
And so if it looks enormous on screen, you can only imagine
Mate, I gotta say, this is just sucking to me brain.
This will be good because I've seen the way your cheeks have gone.
What about all-time dinner guest Tony Greig? I'm having a look at Tony Greig over a steak and a Merlot.
He'd have some great side mouth comments. I imagine Tony Greig.
He really would,
because he'd be at your table and he wouldn't be wearing a hat either.
He's not wearing a hat.
You got to factor that in. Yeah, but you didn't see him a lot of time without a hat on, which I'm not going to judge.
No, I didn't.
Obviously.
No, I didn't.
But he's going to be sitting there.
Sure.
But I'd imagine
if you could start wearing a Panama hat, I can get behind that for the shows.
I was trying to retire. That's just all his. But
sure.
Yeah, I'd imagine it. I'm imagining him at dinner table. He's got a big serviette coming out of his top because he's eating a steak there.
Yeah.
Big bottle of red, bit of plonk. Yeah, and he'd have a yarn or two.
Oh, yeah. And he'd be bellowing. He'd be holding court big time. There'd be shoulders fucking everywhere. Shoulders to Africa. See you later. Job done. 6 points in a song. Anyway, so he's on commentary and then Boucher just blocks the ball and they go off the field and they thank you, beauty. And then they must go in the sheds and they realise, oh, fuck, it's actually a tie and we go out.
Yeah.
I mean, that for me actually might pip the 1999 one where Klusener is just taken down Fleming. Wow. And then he hits one to Mark Orr, who somehow just flicks it, the stumps, misses the bowls, and then Fleming 10-pin bowling one.
I'm sorry. It doesn't hold a candle to whatever the fuck happened in '99. I'm sorry. This Mark Boucher looked like it was a choke of the brain, whereas this was holistic. Donald dropping the bat is some of the best stuff as well. And all of a sudden the bat's out of my hands. I don't know bat anymore.
Slippy.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
we saw some footage today where you could actually hear Gilchrist yell "Flam!"
Yeah,
which I
scream
I hadn't noticed that before.
Oh, what's I can't think of the right word at the top of my head because I'm not
bellowing.
Broadcasting. No,
screech.
It is a
shrill.
It is a shrill, but it's guttural.
Yeah,
it just comes from this place of sheer desperation about what's about to unfold.
Yeah,
I mean, can you imagine winning a game like that?
Yeah.
Imagine being a professional cricketer and winning a World Cup semi-final like that.
Because he knew Gilchrist.
How the fuck do you not go out for a week and a half after that? How do you go out and then beat Pakistan in the final, but with about 17 overs left? No, it was more than that, actually.
Would it have been it wouldn't have been as dramatic if June had dive flicked and knocked it.
Absolutely,
it would have been good though.
Kissed on the dick.
He still looked so good, even though he missed a run out. That if things had gone differently, people think, geez, if only he'd hit from there.
Yeah,
still looked fucking good. It still looked so good. But
why can't I see him side mouthing hit him? Right.
That's right.
Hit him.
He's gathered it cleanly. They don't even think about the gather in that situation. It's a dive flick in one gather. No one even talks about Mark Orr's role in that.
That gets me off. That makes me fucking horny.
Nothing makes me hornier. I'm still though thinking about Tony Greig now at dinner. He's got his serviette. He's got his, and do you think like Tony Greig could go through a period of silence at the dinner table and someone else is holding court about a story or something. And it could be any of the big doyens, like even Richie.
Yeah.
And Tony Greig would be quietly chewing on his steak, medium rare, big old bopper, maybe a porterhouse or something.
Sure.
And you could imagine him got his ears prick up at something, and while he's chewing, I just in my head I could imagine him chewing and kind of and interrupting at that point, you know, like I don't mean it as a sledge. I could just imagine it. Like I'm not doing a South African accent, Richie.
Yeah.
You know, like it would have been nice. I'm just saying. Like, we've spoken on Patreon before about Ultimate Dinner Guests.
Sure,
Benno Bradman, something in the bathroom for you.
Yeah, just flicked into my mind. I don't know why.
Yeah,
I guess South Africa stuff, and he was on comms in that game. Anyway. This Mark Boucher himself, obviously a South African coach, said that this is the worst one.
Which you would say if you were the architect of the last one.
Yeah. Oh no, this one's way worse.
Look, in my personal opinion, this should be the one everyone remembers.
I tell you what, it is a fucking all-time bed shit though. Losing to the Netherlands, you know, but that's also the nature of the World Cup so far, especially the past week. There's been upsets City, upsets deluxe, giant killings,
killing dragons. Just say some words. I talk in YouTube search terms now.
Yeah, that's right. Dragon kill, how big, slaying.
That's right. How woke, cancelled.
Dragon wife, net worth. Where live?
That's right.
Is he still alive?
How big controversy. So yeah, that was South Africa. They were looking good at the start of the tournament.
Yeah.
Mate, one thing about this World Cup, like tell
me one thing.
The sheer one weird trick, the sheer jeopardy of this World Cup. Like,
right.
Mate,
unless you're Pakistan.
Cricket for like white ball cricket for the last 20 years has almost like its singular defining quality has been how good it has been at creating meaninglessness and forgettable games. Like more than other sports, white ball cricket has this quality of like you could like hilariously test anybody on something that happened last week. They're like, nope, couldn't tell you one thing about that game last week. Haven't got a Scooby, mate. And all of a sudden, like, it's gone completely the other way. Like, so you play all these games that mean nothing. You know, they've got no context, no points, no anything. It's just a couple of colours, jerseys playing against each other. Or is it a TV thing? I don't know. It's on.
It's in the one colour.
It's sure. And
it's all greenbacks.
And then you got this World Cup where like one slip, one little mistake, you're fucking out of the tournament. Like, mate, 3 or 4 days ago, South Africa was like going through undefeated. You know, one washout.
Incredible chase against India.
Against India.
Fantastic
game
of cricket.
Nokia, top wicket taker. You got Rabada in the side, bit out of form, but good. David Miller, best number 5 in the world.
Right.
So Bavuma's starting to find some form. It's all looking good. Couple of slips, bang, you're out. It's just like it's like gone to a wild, hilarious form of jeopardy. It's just like they were fine 48 hours ago.
Now
South
I think
Africa.
about it, they got fucked by the rain because they played against Zimbabwe and they were already ahead. They were already ahead of the Duckworth-Lewis rate had they already played 5 overs. But they didn't finish 5 overs, so they got 1 point from that game. That's how they got knocked out.
Yeah.
Then they lost to the Netherlands, but like, fuck that's. Oh, that's a Pakistan as well.
I mean, they should, like, really, I don't know, did I say this last week? Like, really, if you want to work out who's the best team, the best 4 teams, you should probably play each other, get it all done in a couple of days, and you'll probably work out who's who in the zoo. But this one is like, split it into 2, you get a couple of games. If there's a washout, suck shit. You know, one slip up, you're in a lot of trouble.
Yes.
If you're at home, your home fans mightn't turn up. They're all going for Rashid Khan, apparently.
Yeah, exactly. The hometown hero,
Mate,
what about Pakistan, though, making it in after losing to Zimbabwe and then also just completely fucking the first game against India when like they needed, what did India need? 28 off 8?
28 off 8.
And then that last over was the last over and they've still snuck themselves in. Big Doss in the dressing rooms. I don't think they've got a fucking idea what he's talking about, but I love the energy.
Oh, me too.
You
can't not get around Pakistan energy.
Of course. Absolutely. Now, I was actually thinking before the final day on Sunday of the Super 12s, I was thinking like, oh, it's a shame Pakistan aren't in it because if they were in it, they're probably favourites.
Yeah. But
because they've got such a great attack and the batters, Shan Masood and Shadab Khan have sort of done some great business. Iftikhar Ahmed as well, and Babar Azam and Rizwan, who were sort of doing the job, especially in that England series beforehand in Pakistan, haven't found their form at all. I think Babar Azam doubled his tally for the tournament. He's on about 28 runs for the tournament, averaging 7 or whatever, and low strike rate. Rizwan hasn't really got one away just yet, on or off the field apparently.
Yeah, that's right.
Did you get one away? So, but like their bowling attack's just so exciting. Shadab Khan, 99k spinners. That's what you need into the deck. Just fast leggies.
It's fine.
Got to find
Tweakers.
that bloke. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Every team barring India has had a slip in the tournament. Like it's been fucked up somehow.
Well, South Africa beat them. that's the one game they've lost.
Yeah, but that's not a slip. That's just losing to another decent side.
The minnows, inverted commas, have won. Everyone has won a game, except for Afghanistan, who they had 2 washouts, to be fair to them.
Australia had it slip against New Zealand, the minnow. No, but Pakistan has kind of played the least worst cricket. Like though they lost to Zimbabwe, and they lost to India. Like they haven't sort of had, which were just kind of like really bad management of things at the end.
Right.
They've pretty much been like decent enough. I feel like they're well worth a spot in the.
That is the interesting that I found with it. Just compare that to Australia. Australia has not had one single player in form in the entire tournament. I think Stoinis has been the best player.
Yeah.
He had an 18-ball 50 against
59 off 18
against Sri Lanka to sort of get Australia ahead in that game and then win the game off about 16 overs in the end. But Australia had a little bit of strife.
He spared blushes.
But apart from that, Maxwell hit a 50 in last game, okay, but Stoinis has had a run of games where he's got sort of between 20 and 60, right? So he's had a bit of form, but apart from that, none of the bowlers have performed well. Hazelwood, who is, I think he was a premier fast bowler in T20 cricket, he didn't have a good tournament. Stark obviously didn't even play the last game. Cummins hasn't played well for a couple of years, it feels like. Zampa couldn't get in the tournament, obviously missed a game with COVID. None of the batters did anything. But it feels like that does feel like, even though Australia might feel unlucky just to be out on net run rate and not have playing the game against England, didn't play well at all. Didn't feel like we played any good games. Whereas when I see Pakistan, for instance, or New Zealand, or England, or India, there are guys who have done something fucking sensational. Glenn Phillips, 100. Kohli doing that game against India. Mark Wood bowling express pace, picking up wickets all the time. Hales has had a good tournament. Rashid Khan bowled exceptionally well in the game against, I think it might have been Sri Lanka. And I feel like these 4 teams are in the semi-finals now. So it's England and India, might have already said this, and New Zealand and Pakistan. Those are your 2 semi-finals. And it feels like, those are probably the 4 best teams. Those are probably the 4 best teams. Pakistan are very lucky to be in there given their fuck-ups. But does feel like they've got some guys who are doing some good shit.
I'll obviously, I think India are strong, but they're gettable. I think their bowling is very gettable. I can see England taking down their bowlers. It's good. It's serviceable, India's bowlers, but I don't think it's like, anything that would frighten England players too much. I'll continue to sleep on New Zealand. That's my patriotic right.
Of course,
to do that. So
until they win something.
That's exactly right. But they're always going to put up a fight in New Zealand. I'd like to see Pakistan surge through the final, and obviously for view count purposes, I'd like them to play against India. But I do think the highest ceiling team is England.
I agree.
I think England if they put it together, the thing about England is they have the class, like they have high class players like Joss Butler and stuff who just can't deal with him. Butler's one of those guys like nobody could deal with him if he's on. That's it. It's a good night. But it's the depth that really impresses me with them. Like it just seems like they're so balanced in terms of like they've got right-handers, left-handers, tall, short, fucking mesomorph.
They have 7 guys that bowl, 9 guys that bat.
Yeah, and Sam Curran is of enormous value to them. His bowling is, this is you look at a guy like Sam Curran wouldn't get near 3rd grade in Australia, which says more about Australia than him. It's unfair. Yeah, still got to help it. It's $1.20 if I can get. No, he's a fantastic T20 bowler. Guys just can't get him away. He executes like. Hales with Butler is amazing. Moeen Ali, I'm just saying names.
I think Harry Brook's a great player as well.
Harry Brook hasn't done much, I think, so far, but and then there's Stokes. Stokes is a sort of he's a bit part player in this side, and it's still just Stokes.
He's bowling 4 overs, he's taking catches, and he can chip in for a very calming clutch win. The other night.
Wood's bowling faster than anybody else.
Right.
They've got 3 spinners if they need to play them. Like Australia's like, no, we're like meat and 3 veg. You know what I mean? Like we're like the 3 quicks must play. We have Zampa and Maxi with a chop out. That's it.
Whereas what about our quicks, Pez? What about our quicks? All bowl about 138, but names.
Yeah, well, it's still sort of horse stuff. Still.
Now, I think that almost everyone in world cricket wants India-Pakistan, though it will be like chasing the dragon, because what happened that other night in that round game will never be repeated. I mean, it was the eve of Diwali, wasn't it?
The only thing it didn't have was a man cat.
That is actually
I
what we're
still feel like
looking for.
there's one coming. There's got to be one coming.
You know, at the same time, it could just so easily be England and New Zealand in the final. And then that is
also a possibility.
Yeah, sort of 50-50 chance actually. You know, that's got a bit of history there as well, given the I don't know if you know what happened in 2019, mate, but England actually invaded New Zealand.
I don't get out of bed though unless there's like deeper, like more sort of ferocious political history now.
Just a little bit of edge to it.
Yeah, now that like it's like a drug, you know what I mean? It's like, well, I've gone to a level.
Yeah.
You know, England, New Zealand at Lords.
Yeah.
What have you done for me lately?
Now I might tie a belt around my neck. See if that does anything for me. I can't think of any better way than to introduce good friend of the show. Is he best friend? He can't be best friend. He's very good friend of the show, Barney Ronay. And here he is. I must say it. Here he is. He's the great man, Barney Ronay.
Always a pleasure to have Guardian correspondent extraordinaire Barney Ronay on the show. Reluctantly on camera, he let us know off air, and I apologise for that. But the people need optics. They need optics, Barney, and I think it's a good optic, by the way. Nevertheless, far from me to objectify you, how about I just ask you a cricket question? Do you detect, Barney, early signs of a World Cup win for England? What are those signs? Do you like Joss ball or Mott ball? Can you smell it?
Yeah, it's there's a kind of, is it coming home? Could T20 cricket be literally coming home, I suppose. Probably Giles Clarke would say it was coming home for England to finally regain the format. I don't know. It's such a sort of weird tournament, isn't it? In that really arbitrary things can happen, and you base a narrative on that, which is definitely correct and right. There's so many weak points in this England team, and stuff where you kind of think, well, they're going to be found out for that, and they keep picking Stokes because it just feels good to see him there, and people keep saying he's the man you'd want. And then eventually he will succeed, because if you keep picking him enough times, he will succeed. So you can say, I always knew he'd succeed. So he sort of saw them across the line against Sri Lanka by essentially playing test cricket on a bit of a gummy pitch. And Alex Hale's standing there sort of just swinging his bat. Anything could happen. Who knows? You know, 50 off 20 balls, out. So it's very hard to... The one thing I am certain of is that probably everyone who's a neutral, and of course nobody's really neutral these days, probably wants the winner to come from the other semi-final, because you've got old colonial, cowardly, kind of Colin Firth, musket-wielding colonists versus new cement company, shouty colonists. And then in the other semi, you've got nice guys and fun guys. And then the two kind of, the faded, weak-chinned, awful guys, and the kind of people who want to own you. So probably everyone wants the other people to win. Well, I have to say, New Zealand for me, love New Zealand cricket. Lovely guys, grace, dignity, sporting, but don't really want them in the semi-final. Should probably be Australia, shouldn't it?
I really agree with you, Barney, in the set, just from an England perspective, where I sense the story of the tournament will exist in one of two ways. Either England will be knocked out in the semi-final, and then the conversation will be, see, things weren't right when they lost against Ireland, or they win gloriously in the final, and then it just becomes, well, just a triumph of method and right selections at right times, and they just glued it all together, and the program that they put into, like the white ball program, has just been glorious. So is there any meaning in anyone winning?
No, it's really hard, isn't it? I can't really understand whether England are any good or not, because Joss Buttler can just do, as they call it in football, a madness, and they can win a game, and that kind of rescues the entire dynamic of it. But I have to say, at the same time, it sounds like saying the T20 cricket is so random as to be meaningless. It has been, like you say, a really good World Cup. Like, it's been epic. It's been incredible. Despite the fact there's been some rain around, the games have revealed that T20 cricket is actually good. And I think it's to do with, like, we've watched so much bad cricket in the last 3 years. I mean, I watch all of it because I just can't stop myself watching it. But it's often, as you guys have often said, just colours and noises and people in different teams this week. And Ben Dunk running around on the outfield in his bare feet because it's raining. I watched that for about half an hour once during the pandemic. What am I doing? And then suddenly if you make it meaningful, something's riding on it. I think that's what's happened to Virat Kohli, in that people say he's had a dip, but I think he's just played loads of really crap cricket. And that's not what he's about. He wants to move mountains. He wants to be epic. He wants to be an all-time star. And he's playing awful stuff in an empty stadium, in Dubai. And it's just not him. And so the inning against Pakistan was just epic because suddenly he had something epic to do. And it kind of stirred his hormones again, and he was back. So I think while it's utterly random, it's been really good as well. It makes me think the whole culture war stuff about red versus white ball cricket isn't true. It's essentially meaningless cricket versus meaningful cricket that we should be protecting. People who want to sell you this product constantly that has no edges and means nothing, they're the enemy, not playing a slightly shorter game, because when it means something, it's good. Sorry, I'm talking about something completely random, and you were talking about whether England winning would mean anything. And I think that's probably the answer. Some waffle.
There's lots of talk here in Australia about how our country doesn't really care about the World Cup, and that's both a coping mechanism for being bounced out, but it is reflected in how few people turned up. Has it caught the imagination 1 month out from Christmas in England?
Unfortunately not, no. I mean, anyway, it's hard to get, cricket's increasingly a kind of minority sport here, unfortunately. A very passionately maintained minority sport, but no, there's not World Cup fever in any sense, although no doubt when England win, there'll be kind of open bus stop tours and suddenly, the usual kind of bandwagon jumping. But it's Australia are funny. I've really enjoyed the fallout from Australia being Australia, because it really reminds me of England football in kind of the golden generation era. There's always this sense of the defeat is so significant that it must immediately there must be an autopsy, and it's more important than the tournament. The natural state, as it was and is with England football, is for Australia to win. So if someone else wins, this is an aberration and there must be reasons. But I've seen all this stuff. I saw something this morning about they're going to tear apart the team and we're going to bring in all these younger guys, but they all seem to be 28, 29, 30. And David Warner and Glenn Maxwell, is David Warner going to retire? Is that going to happen? I do enjoy Australian failure, but not for the reasons you'd think, just because it feels reassuring and homely, and I recognise it. There's the shades of English football arrogance there that I really cling to and enjoy.
Much like England, I'm sure the conversation at the moment is who's going to play right back in the World Cup for the Socceroos. That's mostly the conversation at the moment. Barney, we've been, me especially, have been waxing lyrical about Sam Curran's performance in the tournament. He was certainly not a lock to start. He was sort of in the squad. He was close enough to the squad, but I think he's been the form bowler of the tournament, and I just think he's been absolutely sensational at the death in the middle overs. He brings stuff in the field. He bats 9, but he's a very capable batsman. Is there, are you seeing it the same way? Are you seeing it the same way as him being like just a highly skilled, highly valuable T20 cricketer?
I mean, I guess so. I'm pleased that he's found. There was always a thing about what kind of cricketer is he. Everyone was convinced that he was good, but no one really knew how or why. So I guess he's found a role. He got injured, stopped playing Test cricket, and has found this role as a kind of skillful, skiddy 79-mile-an-hour left-arm bowler. I mean, I think it's slightly, again, a bit of a narrative-based. Is Sam Curran any good, really? I can still sort of see him being dumped into the crowd 5 times when people wake up and realise that he's a slow, skiddy left-arm bowler. I don't know. He's been very fortunate. His career seems to have been sort of like handed to him in many ways. And I always remember Vic Marks describing him as the 21-year-old veteran. And he's basically been a kind of 37-year-old county seamer since he was 19 years old. He's been Darren Stevens since that age. I don't feel that he's going to get any better. He's not going to get taller or quicker. He's just this very mature guy with a kind of very focused facial expression who's known exactly what he's going to, and been very mature and grown up since the age of 16. I remember when he was coming through at Surrey, he went to the nets. They both kind of, sort of basically turned up, and he went to the nets with the other under 16s. And at the start, there was a sort of bit of talk of like, who's this guy? What's this about? He was kind of small and unexceptional. But by the end of this kind of training camp, he had, by not having any obvious physical qualities, had shot ahead of everyone else. And people were just talking about this guy essentially as a kind of factor of his personality. He was just incredibly focused and incredibly into this thing and learning all the time. He basically became a bowler. I think he was a batsman, became a bowler. And it's kind of an active personality. He seems to have learned as a professional and become this now very skillful left-arm bowler. And things like MS Dhoni saying, I think you're brilliant, I'm going to totally back you, while he's already at the IPL, which he got on the back of one good test series against India, which is a very wise career decision on his part again. His career's kind of become this thing where he learns on the job. So it's kind of it's an amazing thing in some ways. I still don't know if he's any good though, is he?
I haven't formulated this question, Barney. It's not written down for me here, but like we're talking in circles about whether T20 cricket is random and if the people that we suspect aren't very good are actually good, and whether any of that actually matters. Like, to your point earlier, like, do you just conclude that as long as the cricket is meaningful and we have a winner and a loser and some kind of nation state gratification, then you don't really mind what makes a good T20 match, or whether the principles, from Don Bradman's Art of Cricket don't apply anymore, that $1.20 bowlers like Sam Curran can be the best, even though he could also go for 5 sixes? Like, do you trust data when it comes to T20 cricket, or do you just think it is a rather random game and we should just enjoy it that way?
Well, the theory seems to be that it's random over a long period of time. So you can get 0, 0, 100, 0, 0. And so over a long period of time, that randomness evens out. But I don't know. All I really want is some sort of authentic feeling. And so me saying that it's a good World Cup is basically based on the fact that the people who are cheering look like they really mean it and enjoying it. And I feel like it's real. I mean, we just had this story about fans going to the Qatar World Cup being paid to enjoy themselves and being told to cheer and sing songs. And it seems like that's the final frontier, is sort of buying your feelings. And that's something that is vaguely familiar already from T20 cricket, something I've sort of felt is happening in many ways, with these full houses of free tickets and people sort of the paid cheerleader kind of sense, that the weird people trapped in that netherworld in the IPL, where they flick to this wall of videos where these people seem to be on an endless loop of cheering and doing thumbs up. So this World Cup has felt real, in that the emotions are real. India-Pakistan was real. And also, even though India feels like this juggernaut, there are these brilliant stories, like it can't help producing authentic, like Surya Kumar Yadav. It's just the most amazing story. He's not some gym-pumped kid who's come straight out of an IPL factory. He's 32, and he made his debut 10 years ago in first-class cricket in the Ranji Trophy, and he's learned to play this other game, and he seems like a really, really nice guy. And he's become one of the greatest batsmen we've ever seen in this format, late in his career. And it's just it's kind of a Hollywood story. It's a Star Factory thing, which is still really moving, whatever you think of T20 cricket. And I really like that. He's not one of, I remember during the 100, there was an interview with Moeen Ali where he took you into the Edgbaston gym. And he was like, here we are in the gym. And he just dropped in like a bombshell, just casually, that this is where the younger players sit when they're waiting to bat. They go in the gym. Will Smead goes in the gym and pumps iron as a way of preparing to bat. So he just walks, because you can see the middle, and the wicket goes there. He just walks straight out from the gym. And I just don't want that to be what happens in cricket. Bradman wasn't lifting a ping pong ball, was he, in a cricket style? He was hitting it to a metal water storage container. I mean, is that what cricket's going to be? So no to that. And yes to Surya Kumar Yadav's struggle would be my answer to that.
A lot of people in in England, at least a minority of cricket supporters will want England to win, but do you also acknowledge that lots of people want India to win, especially on YouTube and especially broadcasters?
Yeah, I mean, India in the final. I think everyone wants India in the final, and I guess from there you've got the eyeballs. That's all that really matters. I don't know. Does T20 need India to win? Would it be the shot in the arm this format really needs to popularize itself? Are we back in 2007 again? I mean, probably the best thing would be for India to lose, because then India can have postmortems and self-loathing and agony, and people can be burnt in the streets. So that probably doesn't happen anymore. And they can then, I mean, would it become too easy for India if they keep winning these tournaments? Is there a danger we'll kill the goose? I think India losing to England would be so incredibly traumatic and painful and wrong, and cause so it would crash the internet, and that probably is what we want. On the other hand, England will win, deeply annoying for every single other person with even the slightest interest in cricket, and also lots of English people who have an interest in cricket. So yeah, no winners there. Maybe Pakistan India is the final we need.
I do think that, now I think about it out loud, there are no winners. Like, if New Zealand wins it, then it's sort of like it doesn't seem to validate the tournament itself. It's like, wow, okay, you know, I mean, if India win this, then it's going to be see, the IPL has really, you know, buttressed the national team, and then before you know it, the IPL goes for 9 months. And if England win it, well, it's like, well, okay, these guys are, you know, this is Star Wars, and you guys are the enemy now. So I think Pakistan is the answer. But then that might turn into a year-long PSL. So I think we just call the tournament now. Let's just hope for some washouts. Let's hope the rain comes. There's no question attached to this. I'm just thinking out loud now because I hadn't said anything for a while.
Well, that's because I've been waffling on, but it is hard to work out why New Zealand winning the tournament. It's just, I really like New Zealand. Like, they're great. I love them. They're a great team. I mean, I was vaguely encouraged by Kane Williamson's cheating catch. I kind of thought, yeah, maybe I can get behind this, but then it seemed like he just waved and it was fine, and he's still really nice. But somehow them winning, just even them losing narrowly again, I just can't really buy into. You know, I need hatred.
Well, it sounds like we're all sort of into the tournament, and you know, whoever's going to win's going to win. Barney Ronay, thanks so much for joining us.
Cheers, guys. See you.
And there he goes, Barney. Great to have Barney on the show, and this high point, this flashpoint of the finals.
Okay.
Well, a flashpoint, is it? It doesn't make any sense. You know, I was trying something. You know, you shoot your shot.
Right. You got to shoot.
I fucked up. Pez, support for the great cricketer comes from our very good friends at Manscaped. And you know what? If they weren't good friends, we'd fuck them off. But they are good friends. and our friends who listen to this show and watch this show, they're supporting Manscaped, and they get 20% off using the code TGC at manscaped.com. Have you got some copy for me?
Yeah, just on my phone here. I'm looking up male Christmas. Oh, I can't. It's not going to let me do it. It's not going to let me do it. Look, basically, Christmas is coming up. Manscaped's there. We've been talking on the Manscaped's there. We've been talking on the review shows about chases that get a little close for comfort. Pakistan had one. England kind of had one against Sri Lanka as well.
Afghanistan had one against Australia. I got a little close for the fielding side.
I suppose it's and that's blue ball stuff. Your balls are getting blue there.
Okay, yeah, now we're talking.
Mm-hmm. And you know, the one way you can relieve your balls and ensure ensure that they're just aerodynamically adept, and that they're not carrying anything they don't need to carry, and everything just feels generally efficient and organised and sleek around the area, is to shave the hair on them with the Manscaped product.
That was very specific.
A bit of blue ball stuff.
Okay.
And you can, you know, if you want, I don't do this. But it's really like quite adept at getting around all sorts of areas. If you want to keep going, around to the sort of around the other side.
Around the Graham Gooch.
Yeah, exactly.
On the South Africa Netherlands game, Dale Steyn was commentating, right?
Yeah.
And you know we've all heard of squeaky bum time.
Yes.
Coined, I think, by Sir Alex Ferguson, I believe. But Dale Steyn had an interesting term. He said it's there's plenty of itchy bums Funny itchy bums in the dressing rooms there.
Oh, okay.
And now I'm not sure if that's a thing or
it could
if
be
he
a South
just-
African
or
thing
if he
given
misspoke.
their
sure.
history. The squeak could become an itch, which is actually what happens
Yeah.
when you think about that process in and of itself, which is getting more grotesque than I'm probably willing to get.
I would recommend going and seeing a physician if that was the case. If a squeak turns to an itch,
well, that's what I'm like.
that could be an ingrown hair, but you don't get ingrown hairs with it Manscaped.
Yeah, if you got to look after yourself a little bit. I do have some copy here though. Here goes. This is holidays coming early. It's never too early to play holiday music, and it's never too early to start thinking about gifts, whether it's for a friend or the friends in your pants. You can make this season one to be jolly with Manscaped. Do your little drummer boy a favour. Little drummer boy. What do you call that? Oh, that's my little drummer boy. Do them a favour.
You know, some people give their penises names. Those people are often in jail, to be fair. But I'm not sure if little drummer boy is getting the run.
Do your little drummer boy... imagine if your missus just referred to your penis as
a little drummer boy.
A little drummer boy.
Yeah.
Christ. Tricky from there. Use the Lawnmower 4.0 to add another... to avoid another silent night in the bedroom.
They've only gone and done it.
Then add in Manscaped's top-of-the-line shower products to have the people thinking, all I want for Christmas is you. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like, oh, I've shaved my balls and I've then kind of used the other accoutrements to make them smell nice and clean. And then people walk past and go, oh, I like the Mariah Carey song, All I Want for Christmas Is You. I do wonder if there are, let's say, women out there, but regardless, anyone who's interested in genitalia, who like have a smell of a drummer boy and go, all I want for Christmas is you. Mm-hmm. Santa cares about his sack, and so should you. Look nice when you get naughty by going to manscaped.com. Use the code TGC for free shipping and 20% off. That's the code TGC at manscaped.com, 20% off. Yep.
It must be fun to write those copies, whoever does that at manscaped.com. Use the code TGC. Hey, Piers! Hashtag ASKTGC is brought to you by Ponting Wine.
It's brought to you by Safety. I'm not allowed to say this, but they've had a rebrand, and it's a successful one. It's actually just called Safety now, and they're just pictures of Ponting's forearms. Okay, sometimes I might say it's called Ponting Wines.
Sure,
really,
sometimes. On occasion.
It's called Safety, and we're very happy to be getting behind them. If you go to pontingwines.com and use the code GETAFEW, GETAFEW, you're going to get 20% off the whole fucking range
now,
there, as far as I understand.
Are we being sent any Ponting Wines? Because I wouldn't mind a dabble. Or am I going to pontingwines.com myself using the code GETAFEW?
Well, let's do that as a test. Well, our contact at Ponting Wines, I'm not saying any names, but let's see if he listens.
Yes.
And you can send it through to our address. I'm not going to say it on air. I'm not going to say the address on air. But kind of like, is that a bit presumptuous? I think people would give a fuck where we are. But anyway, he'll probably send us some other stuff, I suppose. But yeah.
I mean, I don't. I'm just.
So
thinking,
I wouldn't mind a drop.
I'm thinking pure practicality. I got no problem with using the code GETAFEW at pontingwines.com. I got no problem with that. I'm just saying, like, I wouldn't mind some myself because you know,
coming into
summer, you know, maybe I've got a few events coming up. I've got a few hosting occasions. I've got some dinners coming up. I'm looking forward to.
That's nice.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you.
Thanks. You know, like as if you're not, like it's already a conversation piece. If you got Ponting on the table there, you're thinking hairy forearms. I'm thinking the 2003 World Cup final.
People go, oh, you're the cricket guy. You've got your cricket wines.
That's an issue. Are you still doing the cricket thing? Not really. No, I presume you're talking about me playing twos. No, I stopped playing.
Still love cricket?
What do you mean still? Pontingwines.com. Use the code GETAFEW. And let me tell you, you will get a few indeed. Hashtag ASKTGC. Bye. This is from Anon. As an aspiring political journalist, I take pride in the neutrality of the contents that I consume on a weekly basis and relish the inherent dichotomy of left versus right. I begin in such a grandiloquent manner so as to justify my consumption of the Jordan Peterson podcast, an admission that would usually leave a political commentator like myself being barbecued, sacked, by my nominally superior batting partner, boss. As you may or may not be aware, Mr. Peterson recently interviewed broadsheet/television controversialist, Piers Morgan, after his usual stags acts of sanctimony and intellectualizing over burgeoning woke movements, Piers went on to detail his personal proximity to Donald Trump. When talking about their closeness over the phone, he revealed that Trump actually addresses him as champ on a regular basis. On Piers asking him for an interview during the opening few months of his presidency, he reportedly replied, "Of course, champ. For purposes of validity, please see blah, blah, blah. My contemplations that I put towards you are thus. Although Morgan cites his victory on Trump's celebrity apprentice as the reason for Trump's labeling of him as champ, I've been wondering whether the former president is in fact surreptitiously undermining Morgan and revealing him to be the incompetent, over-promoted arse licker that most of the legacy media suspect Piers of being. Furthermore, do you guys see the migration of champ from the cricket field and other platforms as sporting reproof towards the political landscape as mere mockery or as something more serious? And which, if any, side of the political aisle would you like to see more champing emanating from? Could you, for example, envisage a shadow cabinet minister hurtling the phrase, "You Tory champ," from the dispatch box at the latest PMQs, or maybe have think tank figureheads yell champ to astonished debating opponents in a similar fashion to Village Sunday afternoon alphadom? Keep up the good work, boys. Love the pod. Regards, Anon. Right, so Piers Morgan's been champed by Trump.
I got to say, I feel like I'm going to the well to pull out some more champ angles.
It's a throwback, isn't it?
It's a throwback
to 2016.
It's a throwback. What does it mean that Donald Trump calls Piers Morgan champ? I mean, we see this in America a fair bit. Isn't Joe Biden's dog called Champ?
Yes, I think Champ died.
Look at it. Okay, R.I.P.
I think.
Either
now,
way,
do I type in "is Champ dead"? Champ dead? How old?
Biden.
Yeah.
We see this in America, and it can be quite jarring when you read on Twitter. Like, someone will always get in touch with you, or you might see it in India as well. Like, people just kind of calling others champ without any sense of condescension, real or implied. And it's very difficult to read it in any other context.
Yeah.
And I insist on reading it in that context anyway. You know,
of course.
There's nothing else you're able to do. But in this case, I don't know, like, we're talking about Trump and Piers Morgan.
Right.
Fuck, there's a couple of champions there. You know what I mean? There's a couple of championships.
Couple of Champs-Élysées.
Yeah.
Champignon.
It doesn't, Piers Morgan, Donald Trump discourse doesn't get me going that much either. There's too much going on.
Right.
I feel like you talk about a dinner table guest. Like, you feel like, you're not even, there's so much going on with both of those blokes. Like, I'm sure there's yarns deluxe, but like, I've always maintained, for example, like, war criminal, but George Bush, it's a good schooner, probably. It's probably a funny schooner.
Right.
On a certain level, but Trump and Piers Morgan, like, you just know that there's going to be too much going on. There's too much fucking...
It's not a nice dinner.
Too much tete-a-tete, too much neediness, too much stuff you're going to have to fucking look after, mental load that you're going to be carrying.
Yeah.
Who calls who champ is probably the least of your worries in that dinner conversation that I've invented as a way of dealing with some fucking champ question again.
Some deep-seated issues. And yeah, President Biden's dog, Champ, dies at age 13. That was on CBS News last year, in June last year. So,
R.I.P.
R.I.P. Champ. And you know what? Champ should almost be retired, but it won't be.
No, it won't.
It won't be.
It's too fundamental to the psyche.
Yeah, big time.
It's too fundamental.
But it's like if you're shopping for a car, then you see that car everywhere. Like, it's just once you recognize the champ, you just see it in every interaction in every way possible. Whether you be labeled sweets or pal, sweetie pops,
as you often are. I do think there's a broader awareness in Australia of the implications and condescension of champ.
Of course.
From age 40 below.
Now, I'm scared this is going to precede a plethora of more champ stuff. We don't need it. We go back to episode 215 and beforehand. 216, this is 217, this one. Anyway, yeah. Well, that'll do, Pez, I reckon. Thank you very much to Barney. Thank you very much to Ted for coming onto the show once again. Well, the summer must have started if Ted's on the show. And, of course, Barney's just winding down for the football season now for him. Just a small matter of a World Cup, I suppose. Indeed, over there in Qatar.
Couple of champs there.
Couple of champs knocking about there as well. Thank you as always for listening to TGC or watching TGC wherever you are across the world. Hopefully come to a live show, greatcricketer.com or on Patreon, patreon.com/greatcricketer. You already know all the websites. We'll see you guys after the World Cup final on Monday next week. See you later.